Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Soul and Screen. In this particular video, I'm going to be doing a review on Tyler Perry's Zatima Season 3, Episode number 6, and it is titled No More Lies. So let's just get into it. So last video and episode, we left off where basically Zach and Fatima are in the funeral home looking at trying to shop for a casket for Miss Gladys, and they find out that Jeremiah had came and tried to sell Fatima's watch to the funeral home director, and they don't really know it's her watch at the time, but eventually some conversation happens, time pass, and Zach happens to look at the watch and he's like, "This look like your watch, Fatima?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Where is your watch?" And we pick up basically right there. And so in this episode, he's asking her, like, "Fatima, this look like your watch. Where's your watch?" And she was like, I left it at home." And he was like, "I don't know, Fatima, like, this look like your watch." And she was like, "No, like, I would know it's my watch. I'm the one who wear it all the time." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm just saying this look like your watch." And she's like, "It's not. Trust me." And so, then the funeral home director comes over and he's like trying to give them the, a brochure and stuff. And so she's like, Zach actually asked him, "Hey, like, this is a picture of the watch. Did you happen to read the inscription on the back? Did you see if there was one?" And so he goes, "No, I wrote it on the back of the picture." So he turns it over and it actually reads exactly what he had inscribed on Fatima's watch, which was "To Fatima from Zach." And so he's like, "This is your watch, just like I thought, like, here it is." And so she was like, "Zach, like, it could be, anybody's, and he's like, "Nope, see, To Fatima from Zach." She was like, "There's a lot of Zachs." He was like, "I can tell you right now, it ain't a whole bunch of Zachs who's giving something to Fatima like this." And so he's like, "What's going on?" She's just like, "Nothing." And so the funeral home guy, he feeling all like uncomfortable. So he's like, "I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all some time." She's like, "No, no, no." And he leaves. And so he's like, "Fatima, what is going on, Zach?" And she's like, "Zach, nothing." And he's like, "Okay." And he's like, "Why are you covering for him?" She's like, "Zach, I'm not covering him." And he was like, "All right, all right." And so she was like, "Okay, so can we just focus on your mom?" He was like, "Yeah, let's go ahead. Like, show me the brochure." And so she was like, "Okay, thank you." Like, who? Like, and he goes, "I'll take that one." And she just opens up the page to something. And she's like, "Zach, you're not even taking this serious." He goes, "Oh, I am taking this serious, but you not. I am serious, but you're not taking this serious." And so she's like, "Zach." And so he just picks out either one of them because now he mad, right? Because he trying to figure out why she's covering for him and stuff like that. And so she's like, "Zach," and he's like, "Fatima, can we just he's like, "Fatima." And so she's like, "Zach, can we just talk about this when we get home?" He goes, "Yeah, nah." And so he walks off and she's like, "Babe, like, don't," and he's like, "No, like, I'm going to get your watch." And she's like, "Zach, I don't want you to do that." He goes, "Oh, so then it is your watch." And she goes, "We don't know that for sure." He goes, "Fatima, we just read the inscription on it." She was like, "Okay, Zach, all I'm saying is let's go to the house and check the safe before we start blaming your brother for being a thief." And he was like, "Okay, so why don't you go do that, and I'm gonna go ahead and go over to the apartment and get your watch." And she was like, "Zach," and he was like, "Why are you protecting him and covering for him?" She was like, "I'm not." He was like, "Why are you lying to me?" And she looked at him and she was like, "What?" And he was like, "You told me that when we got good again that there was gonna be no more lying." And so he was like, "Right?" And so she like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "So then, you don't want me to lie to you? Then stop gaslighting me. Like, Fatima, tell me, like, what's going on?" And he's like, "Babe, please." And she's just like, "Zach." And she's looking at him and she's like looking in his eyes and she really don't want to tell him because she knows this is about to send him sailing. And so he's like, "Fatima, please, like, just tell me." And so she's like, "Fine." And so she goes, "Okay." And so she starts telling him, but she's trying to tell him a very fragmented story, right? So you can tell, like, even in her talk, she's like, it's broken. So she's like, "Okay, so Jeremiah came to the job," and he's like, "All right." And you know what I mean? So she's telling the story very fragmented and he can tell. So she basically tells him the whole thing, that Connie found out that there was a insurance policy that your mom had. She brought it to me because she didn't want Jeremiah to find out about it. I told her that I was going to talk to you about it. I just hadn't got to that point yet. And he was like, "All right." And she goes, and so Jeremiah found out about the insurance policy. And he goes, "He came up to your job to talk to you about it." And she was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Okay." And so she was like, "And I guess maybe when I wasn't looking, he, maybe took my watch." And he was like, "Fatima," like, he goes, "You wear that watch like every day. Like, how come you didn't notice it?" because he goes, you didn't tell me. She goes, babe, I didn't notice it until like I saw the picture. And he goes, but you wear that every day. She goes, I know. She goes, like, I remember wearing it to the gym. I took it off and I just don't remember putting it back on. But I must have just put it in my purse. And so Zach is still hearing this very broken, slow, fragmented story. And he's like, and he calls her on. He was like, that's BS. And she was like, Zach. And he was like, you not telling me everything. She was like, Zach, I am. He was like, nah, you not. And he was like, okay, I'm going to get your watch. And so she goes, Zach, please don't. And he was like, you expect me to sit here and like let him take the watch that he stole, like the watch that I gave you, and steal it, like steal the watch that I gave you. Sorry, you guys. And like to prove that I love you and I'm just supposed to not do nothing. And she was like, Zach, please do not do this. And he was like, yo, like, I'm going to get your watch. She's like, Zach, I do not want you to do that. And he tells the funeral home dude, he was like, you might as well get another casket together because I'll be back. And so she runs out and she's like, Zach, don't do it. You know what I mean? So she's definitely trying to stop Zach from going to see Jeremiah. So they get into the car and Zach apparently is like driving all crazy. And so she calls Connie and Connie's like, hey. And so Fatima's like, hey, this is Fatima. She was like, listen, is Jeremiah there? And she was like, nah. And she goes, wow, what's up? And she goes, Zach is on his way to talk to Jeremiah. She was like, well, he ain't there. She goes, wow, what happened? And so Fatima goes, Jeremiah stole my watch, and then he tried to, and then tried to sell it to the dude at the funeral home. And she was like, what? Like, he is wilding out. And she was like, I know. And Zach is so pissed, and I don't know what he gonna do. Like, please, if you see Jeremiah, tell him to leave because Zach is looking for him. And she's like, okay. She goes, but he not here. She goes, I'm just saying, like, he driving all crazy. I'm trying to follow him, and he doing all these like turns and crazy turns because he trying to, basically shake her. And so she was like, all right, I'll keep a lookout. And she's like, I'm on my way. So she hangs up the phone and she starts looking, for Zach. And eventually Tony and Nate run around the corner and they run into Connie, and she's like, hey. And he's like, yo, what's up? And they was like, look at this. Jeremiah stole Fatima's watch. And she was like, oh, I know. And so Nate was like, how you know? And she goes, Fatima told me. He was like, dang, like, y'all like aces like that already and stuff. And so she was like, no. He was like, I'm just saying, I ain't never seen nothing like that, no chicks like two exes get along like that. And so she goes, that's because you always hanging around some janky like hoes and stuff. And so Belinda happened to walk up at that same time, and she was like, I know you're not talking about me. She was like, because I was about to say, like, you ran up. And so Connie was like run up then, girl. Like, so anyway, that's them. Let me go back a little bit. So Fatima is still on the way to the house, to the, apartment complex. She ends up getting a call. She gets a call from Angela, who Angela's like, what's up, girl? Like, what you doing? She tells her what's going on. Like, I'm on my way to the apartments because Zach found out that Jeremiah stole my watch and he tried to sell it. And she's like, dang, like, I can't believe he did that. She's like, I know. So they kind of like, girl, this is just a whole trip. She's like, but I'm trying to stop Zach because I don't really know what he gonna do. I was really just trying to, she was like, I'm just trying to get him into a place where he's calm so I can tell him, because she's like, she don't like lying to him. She just, she has a valid reason. Like, I understand people, like, you shouldn't be lying to your dude, but I do understand why she is trying to keep this from him, and why originally she started off with, like, I'm not gonna say nothing, to the point where it escalated to, like, too many people know now I gotta say something. But before I do, I want to get him calm. That's why she kept trying to get him to go home, because she was like, can we just talk about this when we get home? Can we go home and talk about this? And Zach was just like already on fire. And that's why she didn't want him to find out. She's trying to get him home so she can kind of calm him down, because it's different. Like, she tried to give him a little bit, and tell him at the same time, maybe he ain't going to be so quick to pop up. Right. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, she tells Angela that, and Angela is like, well, dang, you want me to come? And Angela's like, Fatima's like, what you gonna do, Angela? Like, if you come, like, what's the point of you coming? So she was like, no, you're right. I got my own drama. And so she was like, what's going on with you? And so she told her, Bryce is coming over, and, because he trying to apologize. And so she was like, oh, you gonna let him come over? And she goes, yeah. Because, and she was like, Fatima asked her, like, why he apologizing? She was like, because he was talking to me crazy at the hospital and stuff. And And so she was like, oh. So they hang up, and this is what I say, like, Fatima can tell that Angela is still kind of, is not completely over Bryce, and she does try to kind of give some room for Angela to be honest enough to say that. I will say that that's the difference between Fatima's conversation with Angela about Bryce versus Belinda's conversation. Like, Belinda's continually bringing up the fact that he was into, like, trying to interest or open to having sex with a guy, like even Zach and things like that, attracted to him, where Fatima is just trying to, like, give Angela some space. Like, if you love this man, like, and that's the thing, if it's really not an issue for you, then, hey, if you want to be with him, I'm not trying to judge you. And I will say that is cool from Fatima's point of view, is that she knows that her friend is still really wanting this dude. She just trying to figure out how to get over that hurdle. And so anyway, that was pretty much them. Bryce does come over. Him and Angela have a conversation where he tells Angela he's sorry, and he was just he wants them to be friends. And so she was like, we are friends. And he was like, yeah, but without a judgment, because you keep kind of bringing up the fact that I tried to kiss Zach, and it's just, we need to let it fly and let it drop. And here's the thing. I hear what Bryce is saying, like, it's in the past, but you can't tell somebody how quickly to get over something. Like, that wounded Angela, and just because you want to move past it and just skirt to the next relationship and move on is not so easy for her, you know what I'm saying? Because he wasn't completely honest. And so you don't get to tell people how long it takes to heal or to move past something. And so the truth of the matter is, they really probably shouldn't be friends. Like, when you breaking up with somebody and you're really done with them, you really shouldn't be trying to be around them and being friends and trying to say we friends and stuff. That's just not gonna work. So anyway, they eventually say, yeah, they're gonna try to be friends. And Angela was like, I was trying to do that. And so that's pretty much it for them. On the other side of town, before Belinda actually gets to the complex and gets into it with Connie, she actually goes back to the barbershop. Remember, they had just went off on her, or Mr. Tyrone had just went off on her a little bit and was like, what you doing here? And she ends up coming back like later on. And so Mr. Tyrone is like, what you doing here? Like, you back? And so she's like, dang, like, why you always coming at me? He was like, cuz, like, what you doing here? She was like, I'm just looking for Nathan. He was like, well, they not here. And so she trying to figure out where they at. So she ends up tricking Mr. Tyrone into telling her what happened, which was that Jeremiah stole the watch, and they on their way over to the apartment complex to confront him about it and everything. So that's how she ends up getting to the apartment complex and getting into it with Connie's, because she just messy. Like, this ain't got nothing to do with Belinda, and she just want a front row seat to see Zach crash out so that she can kind of, again, tell, like, Fatima, I told you so, I knew I was right. Like, he ain't no, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, she think that Fatima gonna let her back in if Zach is out the picture, and this ain't really got nothing to, I mean, it has something to do with Zach, but at the same time, not really. That's just the second part of it. You betrayed me first, you know what I'm saying, by thinking that you was going to be able to do that. And then, you know what I'm saying, by going at Zach. And then there's the you came at my man situation, but you decided to betray the friendship first. And so that's why I say Belinda is just messy, and she need to go. And so anyway, that's pretty much where everything picks up. And so what that does is that brings us all back to the apartment complex. Zach finally pulls up, and he is walking up where he sees, like, Connie, Nathan, and Tony and all of them, huddle around. And so, he's like, he walking straight past him because he mad, right? And so they like, what's up, dude? And so they grab him. And so he like, man, like, let go of me. And so he, yanks his arm away from Nate because Nate tried to grab him. And so he goes up to the apartment complex. And Connie is like, y'all go. And he was like, well, Jeremiah ain't there. She was like, yeah, but what if he on his way back? Like, y'all go and run some interference, basically. So they run up there. and to try to stop Zach. While they're going that way, Fatima is pulling up and she's walking up. And the funny part about it is while Belinda trying to be all in the mix and put herself in the way, Fatima looked straight over her like she wasn't even there. She didn't say nothing to Belinda. She walks up and she straight like looks past, like look through Belinda, like as if she was Casper, baby. Like she was just like straight talking to Connie only, like where is he? And so Belinda's sitting there like looking, and so Connie filling Fatima in, and she's just like so they went up, he went up to the apartment looking for Jeremiah. She's like, dang. She's like, but don't worry about it because he's not there. And so she was like, but the boys went up to bring him down. She was like, they should be back in a minute because he's not there. And so she goes, okay, good. And so she tells Fatima, like, Tony got your watch. And she was like, what? And he was like, yeah, like, and she was like, how did he get my watch? And so Connie goes, Belinda. And Fatima was like, goodness gracious, like here this chick is again. And so Belinda's like, hey. And so Fatima is looking at her like, girl, if you don't tell me and get out my face, right? And so she goes, anyway. And so she tells her basically Mr. Tyrone told her that Jeremiah came in with her watch trying to sell it. Tony took it, and then that's how they got, that's how he got the watch. And so she's just like, dang, Fatima, she's like, oh my goodness. And so she's just like, but just calm down, like it's good, like everything okay. Jeremiah, ain't nobody seen him. And so she's like, okay. And so she, Fatima's like, you know what, I need a minute. And so she walks away. And during that process of Fatima walking up, like, Connie was getting Belinda told. And this is why I think Connie do need to stay, because Angela is too nice and too passive. And I feel like Fatima do need another friend there that's going to say something. And if it's not going to be anybody from sisters, like if they're not going to like bring Danny in, which they probably shouldn't, that Connie should be that one to tell Fatima, like, real talk, you need to kick her out because she trifling. She came at your man. It was totally different. Her and Connie's situation is not the same. Connie and Belinda's situation with Zach is not necessarily the same. Because Fatima and Belinda were best friends is what I'm saying. So anyway, before Fatima gets to them, Connie is like going in on it. She was like, what? Because Belinda's like, why you keep coming at me like this? And she was like, cause you messy. Because Belinda had just said, girl, like, please let me be here when all of this go down. And Connie called her on it. She was like, you trifling. Like, and she was like, why you keep coming at me? She was like, cause I thought you were supposed to be friends. She was like, listen, we are. Me and Fatima been best friends and we real cool. We just going through something. And no, y'all not going through nothing. You trying to act like you didn't do anything, and you did. And so Connie was like, I'm just saying, like, you messy and you need to try, if you really gonna try to be their friend, then be their friend. Quit, and meaning try to help de-escalate the situation and not add fuel to the fire, because she's the only one who's trying to add fuel to the fire. Now, they all did come to the final conclusion now, because everybody is too many people who know about the story that they do all believe, including Fatima, knows that they need to say something to Zach because too many people know by now. But the original intent was from Fatima's standpoint, and her point to his friends was that if everybody would hush, I don't have to say anything to Zach, because hopefully Jeremiah won't say anything. But you can tell she either, just because she been in her life don't mean she been around crackheads or anything like that too much. Because she didn't, Connie kind of basically had to tell her, like, listen, like, Jeremiah high. Like, when he high, he gon' basically run his mouth. And unfortunately, that's kind of just what some people do when they high. And so she was like telling her it ain't gonna be nothing that I could do to stop it. And that's when Fatima kind of knew, once too many people knew, that I have to say something to him, but I just want him to be calm. And that is the whole point that I've been trying to get, that I understand where she was coming from that perspective. And so anyway, that's basically what Connie was telling, Belinda, like, if you gonna be her friend, then be her friend, like, and quit trying to add fuel to the fire and send her man to prison. And now, granted, don't none of them know that Fatima is pregnant. The only person who really knows that Fatima is pregnant at this point is Angela And then probably Preston, like I said, because he was watching Zach rub Fatima's stomach. But outside of that, they have not communicated to anybody else that Fatima is pregnant. And it don't seem like Angela has spilled the beans to Belinda about this, because if so, then you would think anyway that Belinda would be trying to help her friend stay stress-free, which she not at this point. So anyway, that's pretty much it, except for the last scene where Zach actually gets to the door and he's banging on the door. Jeremiah and Nate and Tony get there and they're like, yo, Zach, he not here. And so Zach kind of grills him like, what y'all, do y'all know what he did? And so they was like, nah, like, what'd he do? And so they not really good liars and stuff like that. And so he calls them on, he was like, y'all not good liars at all. Like, do you, don't like how y'all gonna do this? Y'all supposed to be my dudes and y'all gonna let, like, you gonna kind of keep this from me? Like, if I find out y'all knew all of this and y'all knew what he did and y'all didn't say nothing to me, like, it's on basically. So finally Nate cracks and he's just like, fine, like, I think we need to tell him. And Tony is like, shut up, Nate. And so Zach hems Tony up and was like, you shut up, like, you don't say nothing else, Nate, go. And so Zach finally gets Nate to tell him, and Nate tells him like, Jeremiah went up to the job looking for Fatima. We don't know what happened. He either made her fall or pushed her or something. We don't know. We got to get more information. But, he did something to her. And so Zach, he snaps, right? He's like, wait a minute. She's effing pregnant and she didn't tell me. So now he is on fire. And so he walks off and they like, Zach, And so Tony like comes off on Nate and he's like, see what you effing did, and Zach. And so Nate is like, man, shut up. Like, I just saved you. Like, Zach was about to get in that in that tail. And so that was pretty much the end of the episode. And so let's go ahead and get into this conversation. So again, I do understand while, again, everybody was trying to, believe Zach should know. And I do think that his friends should tell him, but I do feel like that you have to just be old and mature enough. Let me say it that way. And to each his own. To me, I do believe that Fatima was being discerning enough in trying to figure out when is the appropriate time to tell him once it got to the point where she knew she had to. Why? Because she has to live with the consequences. None of them else, nobody else. She has to. She's pregnant with his child. She's engaged with him. If he go to prison, that just jacks up everything that she thought about, the plans that she had, the plans that they had for their lives together. And one of them was for her. She wasn't planning on trying, intending to be a single mother. You know what I'm saying? She definitely was planning to a life with this man. So her wanting to keep him stress-free and calm before, as much as possible before she told him this. Again, I can't go along with the fan base who was ticked off at Fatima for wanting to keep this piece of information from him until it was a better time to, have the discussion. And that's just me. I'm not going to argue with anybody on this channel about it. We can agree to disagree. I hear you. You can definitely tell me your viewpoint. I do believe in, again, people on this channel being able to say their piece. Just understand that I'm not going to get into a back and forth about it because we probably just will not agree. Because I have not changed my my thought processes, my understanding, my side of what I believed her, of her point of view since I watched it live, and even going through it again, it makes it even more so because of what we know about Zach. Even going into sisters and his temper and everything like that, it doesn't change anything for me. So please state your claim, state your claim to fame. Tell me what you think. I don't mind that. I'm just not going to get into an argument about it. Gotcha. But I do understand where she's coming from. I do also understand why they wanted to tell him, because we are, best friends. We've been best friends since we was young, but timing is everything, people. Like you got to know when to discern, when the appointed time is for an opportunity to be to be taken, to be brought up. And that's just in anything, any type of conversation, any opportunity. Timing is it. And right now, Zach's temperature is too high. Like he's still, like I said, coming off of season 2's attitude. Like this is all just within like some days and stuff like that. So he still, was popping. Look how mad he was at the beginning of season 2. All of this was within weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like we just gonna say maybe 2 total, because season 2 was just within a couple of days too, and so was technically season 3 picks up right after season 2. So anyway, let's go ahead, like I said, get into the discussion, and we can really go into, what you guys, what we think about each other's viewpoint as far as who was right, who was wrong. I do think it's just going to be a split decision, and I think it was written to be that way, in all honesty. I think Tyler did a really good job bringing this up, because it was definitely a good divide and tension, which makes it a really good, valid conversation points, topics that were trending and stuff, because it was like people who just, thought Fatima was out of line, and then it was those of us who thought, Fatima was right, and Zach, her wanting to protect Zach to as best she could up to a certain point and things like that, especially when we get to what pops off after he finds out. Like, starting episode number 7 on, it just escalates into it just spins out of control, basically, right? For those who've seen the full season 3. And this was what she was trying to prevent. Fatima not telling Zach did not start this, is what I'm saying. Like, it was always going to be that she was just trying to hold off, because if I can at least get him calm, if I can at least get him, a little, maybe even past the funeral, then she not dealing with all these different emotions that's coming at him that he does not know how to manage, and she knows that, you know what I'm saying? And so anyway, that's it for that. Let's also talk about the conversation between Connie and Belinda. Like, Belinda is not hearing anything else, that she not getting it from Fatima. She's still kind of talking to Angela like, everything is cool. Connie was the one who told her, like, you need to be their friend, like, you trifling. And I love that. So that's what I'm saying. If Fatima is going to, in season 4 and beyond, as Courtney writes this, that if Fatima is going to have Belinda back in the circle, then I would want Angela to be there. Connie to be there to check Belinda, because I think she's the only one who does it outside of Fatima, because Angela don't do it. Angela is kind of like a go along, to get along kind of person. Like, she only lets and says something to Belinda when Fatima says something. So let me know what you think about that friendship dynamic, and how that storyline you think would go if Connie was like the one that was always kind of getting at Belinda and letting Belinda have it. Because I do think that Connie is going to end up being kind of like, a deeper friend. Her and Fatima's friendship flourished from a different and very unusual place, but I do think that it's going to intensify because of the, cancer that Connie is having, and then with Fatima and Zach playing a part in that, in helping her get her kids back and things like that's going to kind of solidify a different type of friendship that it would have been, should it just been like, we gonna be cordial type of thing. Like, she done been in her house at this point. She's staying the night. Like, Fatima basically told her they family. That's what I'm saying at this point. So I think Connie gonna be the one that be checking Belinda, like, and asking her, like, quit bringing up the fact, like, that you slept with Zach, all that. Like, it's just weird to me that she does that, and I can't stand that she does that. Like, everybody know that I had Zach first. Don't nobody need you to keep saying that. If you over him, you wouldn't keep saying that when you know that your best friend, supposedly your best friend, somebody you consider to be your best friend, is engaged with this man, pregnant by this man, and you keep telling everybody who don't need to know that you slept with him. Like, that ain't nobody business, and you keep bringing it up. And so anyway, I feel like Connie would definitely check her on that, and I would love to see it. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode, you guys. Let's go ahead and get into the conversation like we do down in the comments. Once again, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.